$6,500 level as the hotter than expected inflation print rattled investors. Maria Teresa Marshall of BPI Asset Management says companies have a tough balancing act as they deal with high inflation and rising interest rates. On the investment side, though, she says it's a good time to be looking for opportunities amid the downtrend in the markets. She's seeing great opportunities and returns in the next 6 to 12 months. For now, though, we're 2 minutes into trade, the index opening higher by a fifth of 1%, 14.6596. And all eyes on Ethereum. We're counting down because Ethereum is switching to a more energy-efficient method of validating transactions dubbed as the Ethereum network merge, happening in the next few hours. We're going to be speaking about its impact on the broader crypto market with Zhou of coins.ph. And the International Finance Corporation launches a new program to help mobilize financing for climate-friendly projects in the Philippines. IFC's Kim C. Lim joins us later on in the show for more on that. So we are counting down to the highly anticipated Ethereum network merger happening roughly midnight in the East Coast. So that's about 1 to 2 hours from now. What does this all mean for the crypto space overall? Let's get some perspective from coins.ph Zhou for all things crypto talk. Zhou, good morning. Welcome to Market Edge. Finally, we have you.
Good morning, Mimi. Thanks for having me here.
All right. So let's start with the big news with Ethereum. From energy-hungry proof-of-work systems, as used by peers like Bitcoin, they're shifting to proof-of-stake. Swapping out miners for validators. A lot of jargon, so they drop right there. So why don't you give us a simple layman's explanation of what the merge really is and take us through why it's important?
Yeah, I think what's going on with Ethereum, it's changing the way that it's mined, and it's changing the way that the network is secured. So instead of have miners that basically run nodes that validate transactions on Ethereum, right now we're actually switching through basically stakers. What that means is that I think two things happen. It will generally have what we call a deflationary effect on Ethereum, which means that there are going to be less Ethereum supply out there. From a mining perspective, there's always new Ethereum that's going to be mined. Right now, one of the most direct impact is actually we're going to have less selling pressure as the miners are not, instead of the miners sort of mining Ethereum on a daily basis and selling them into the market to fund their operation. What you're seeing is basically people are actually taking their Ethereum and then staking it into the validators that they can either create on their own or into a larger pool. So that way we're actually going to be seeing less Ethereum coming into the market. So I think overall it's going to be very deflationary for the amount of Ethereum supply that's sort of being traded in the market. So I think that's going to be a very positive boost for Ethereum price. And I think the second really positive impact here is actually the proof of work method uses energy, and the proof of stake obviously does not, right? Because you don't need to run sort of these machines that actually mine Ethereum. So I think from an overall institutional adoption perspective, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more traditional funds that kind of held back on investing in Bitcoin because of ESG concerns now actually have this sort of this mega cryptocurrency that has but the second largest market cap cryptocurrency that people want to dabble or want to look at it and have held back on investing from an ESG perspective coming into Ethereum. And I think the third biggest thing, on the impact of Ethereum is actually with sort of users like myself or with owners of Ethereum, you can actually stake that into the network and you can actually get a yield from that. And then I think what we're going to be seeing is actually seeing like real yield coming into sort of the cryptocurrency space that's actually provided by the market. And I think that for that we're actually going to be seeing the cryptocurrency sort of worlds type of what I call sort of risk-free yield, kind of like the U.S. dollar Treasury yield that defines sort of like what that yield, what that interest rate is, or what that lending rate is, or that borrowing rate. I think we're going to see sort of like a real market-based, risk-free sort of borrowing or lending rate, and that's actually going to drive, I think, the real start of DeFi. I think that those are sort of the three general impact that I see for Ethereum.
All right. You mentioned the deflationary on supply. Law of supply and demand. When supply is low, the price goes up. The same goes for Ethereum?
I think so. Yes.
And do you think this is going to inspire, a rally in other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin? I mean, the most popular, widely used cryptocurrency, some are calling Bitcoin the reserve currency, so to speak. Bitcoin has been locked in a 10-month downtrend since reaching all-time highs of 69,000 November last year. Right now, it's trading at 20,104, just 1/3. Is crypto down for the count, or just taking a long pause and raring to come back?
I think it's down for the count, and I think what we're seeing right now is one of the I think we'll see. I think two things we'll see. We'll see like a divergence in terms of price action on Bitcoin and Ethereum over the next 6 to 12 months. As sort of, I would say, not just general crypto investors, but I think institutional investors globally learn about sort of those three things that I had talked about from Ethereum. Becoming deflationary, from becoming sort of ESG friendly, and from actually being able to generate a yield on it. I think for Bitcoin, it serves a different purpose from Ethereum. I think for Ethereum, one of the comparisons that I've seen sort of like is that, Bitcoin is like digital gold, right? It provides, I think, storage of value. I think that part is the use case that Bitcoin is provide. I think, and then Bitcoin has, limited supply of 21 million. I think that those are the sort of the characteristics, the fungibility of it, the ability to carry it with you. I think those are things that Bitcoin provide. I think Ethereum, one of the use cases that I've seen for Ethereum is maybe like digital oil, because Ethereum, there is a use case for Ethereum. Ethereum does have what we call sort of a smart contract. So if you look at sort of, a lot of the token issuance over the last 5 years have taken place on Ethereum. NFT issuance have taken place on Ethereum. So there's actually a real use case of Ethereum in that you actually need to use Ether as gas when you transact on the Ethereum network. And then we're actually seeing more and more what I call layer 2 protocols or applications being built on top of Ethereum. So I think post-merge with staking that takes place, I think we're going to see, a much more decentralized Ethereum coming forward. And Ethereum sort of like that sort of, and from an investor perspective, those are two very different asset classes. I think, I think for crypto investors like myself, and entrepreneurs like myself, we're still very bullish on Bitcoin over its long-term prospects. But I just think in the short term, at least in the next 6 to 12 months, I think Ethereum is going to get a lot more attention.
So considering all of these noise, all of these news about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and the wild swings that your investors have seen, what has that done to your users at coins.ph in terms of volumes and transactions? I mean, I heard a lot of people are just afraid to even touch that currency now. Talk to us about crypto trading volumes today.
Yeah, I think trading volume, for coins, from top sort of like second quarter, like third quarter, fourth quarter, I think in 2021, we actually sort of saw absolute peaks in this marketplace for both users in terms of active users, in terms of trading volume. I think overall in the Philippines, I think, during the top days, including coins and including sort of transactions on a lot of the international exchanges, coming out of the Philippines, I think we're looking at almost like a couple of $100 million a day of trading volume, and looking at a couple of millions of users, like 2 to 3 million users that trade actually crypto. I think right now that number is probably down half from peak to trough right now, especially sort of like in the June or July lows when price really sort of took a tumble. But I do think that sort of that level of activity is sort of stabilized. Like for coins right now, we're still seeing a couple, almost like 3 to 4 million sort of active users coming into, about close to 5 million users actually come into our app on a monthly basis. Some of them may not transact right now because I think they're holding back and looking at sort of the price. But I do think the interest level is definitely still there. It's people just waiting for for price to stabilize, and then I think looking for more catalysts. I think crypto industry, there's a saying in the crypto industry that price drives a narrative. So I think people are looking for price to sort of lead the action and sort of building new narratives. I think last year we saw narratives, I think in NFTs, we saw narratives in DeFi, and we saw narratives, I think, in sort of just general Bitcoin adoption. I think this year, I think as we talked about before, I think Ethereum is going to drive that narrative going into the end of the year.
All right. And that assumes that, of course, the investors are patient enough to wait for the narratives to come in. Let's go to another use case, blockchain technology, NFTs. Why don't you break down your outlook for the future of non-fungible tokens? For the Philippine context, of course, any NFTs worth noting locally?
Yeah, I think for Philippines, just like for sort of like the last two years, I think the most well-known is actually gaming NFTs called Axie Infinity, where the
free
gaming
to earn.
The play to earn space, yeah. I just came back. I just came back from attending AxiCon in Barcelona over the weekend. And I think it's actually a really exciting ecosystem. So the Axie right now is still the #1, what I call Web3 game. I think the narrative around play to earn is changing a little bit to maybe build to earn, or like, play to build and build to earn, or play and earn. I think a lot of it has to do basically, Axie right now still has a couple 100,000 sort of like, daily active users that actually play, do battle, and then also mine their sort of NFTs. I think for the NFT space, what we're seeing sort of like as an asset class over the last few years, I think have been 3 types of NFTs. One is gaming NFTs. The second bucket is what I call virtual land, as we see in the sorts of sandbox and Decentraland. And the third bucket is actually what I call PFPs, profile pictures. Those are the apes, the penguins,
we've seen those artworks,
dogs, right? All of those, like, I own an ape myself, and then we sort of played around with it. I think sort of for NFTs, like it's actually all of these things, I think, all lead into the metaverse. Like all roads, I think, lead into the metaverse. And what the metaverse comes in is actually what's really defining the metaverse is actually going to be what I call the digital asset ownership economy. You're basically creating a whole new virtual world where individuals like you and me, as long as we have a wallet, hopefully a Coins wallet, we can actually own items in the metaverse. Whether the item is virtual land, whether it's a gaming asset that I can sort of play around with and make money from, or it's just a profile picture or an avatar that I can use to represent my identity sort of in this virtual world. And I can have multiple identities because I own multiple avatars, and I can own a lot of different land. I think with property ownership, like the biggest difference I think for NFTs is that it's just the proof of concept over the last few years that we can actually own digital assets, and we can actually generate earnings and generate yields from these digital assets. No different than assets that we own in the real world. I think that proof of concept has sort of demonstrated itself, and now it's just up to entrepreneurs like myself to sort of to build into that world and to allow for normal people like to come into this world and then enjoy sort of owning the internet for the first time.
All right. Exciting times ahead, exciting future for this sort of asset. And we are watching. Zhou, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now, just a quick look at the Philippine Stock Exchange.